What were we going to
Oh,
talk
we're
about?
live.
Oh, there we go.
I'll announce it. That's perfectly timed. Well done, and welcome everybody back to the Talking Average Fitness podcast. My name is Sam Burns. I'm joined always remotely, but just from a further distance this time, by my good friend and compatriot, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, Sam. Clearly dazed and confused, as per usual. That little line right there
Yeah,
probably gives a really good insight of how prepared we usually are for these shows. Um, Sam
yeah.
Sam is more prepared than I am, but most of the time. But don't let that fool
Most
you
of the
into like how much
time.
more prepared he is than me. um,
No, no, only marginally,
yeah,
if we're
just
being
just
generous.
marginally. Yeah,
Yeah.
but just shows that the lengths will go to give the people what they either want or maybe don't want is, trying to figure out schedules between East Coast time and West Coast time to
hmm
hop on here and talk a whole bunch of nonsense.
That is true. We did spend a fair amount of time trying to figure that out. I've already had that West Coast time schedule snafu screw me up for one discussion this week, but hopefully
I'm
that's the end of
I'm
it.
sure.
Um, yeah. So quick aside. So my family's out here in Oregon. We're visiting my in-laws, and that morning, so Wednesday morning, my son got up early. He got up like 6 a.m. and that's early for him. So I get up with him.
Mhm.
We went to the airport around 1 o'clock. We took off at like I think 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Had a layover in Denver where we were delayed by almost 2 hours, and then finally boarded, and then like another 45 minutes or an hour before we actually took off. And so by the time we landed in Redmond, which is just outside of Bend, Oregon, we got our bags because Redmond is a tiny airport. So there's literally like two dudes who like drive over in a truck and they unload all the things and then they drive to the side of the building and they're like they've got the it's like a smoke and mirrors thing where like the luggage comes out on the carousel, but
Mhm.
there's no machinery behind the curtain. It's just two dudes unloading it onto the carousel from the
Yeah,
cart. And by the time we finally got home, it was like 1 a.m. And that's 1 a.m.
yeah,
local time. So my body clock, it's 4 a.m.
yeah.
And I send a message to Kevin and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get up for our normal time. We're going to have to push this. And he responds like immediately. And I was
Mhm.
like, right, coach.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I thought that
like,
was kind of so like he sat there, you're like, oh yeah, it's 1 a.m. here, it's 4 a.m. my time, and like I'm awake because I gotta be up to go get to the gym and the whole thing. And
yep.
so like I actually like as I was, getting up and going about my business, like phone buzzes. I'm like, who the fudge? Oh, it's Sam. And it's like Sam goes, hey man, won't be able to like won't be able to log on. It's 4 a.m. My body clock time. I'm like, yeah, hey, how we doing?
Yes, it
Hope
is.
you
Mine too.
like, yeah. I'm saying good morning. You're saying good night. Um,
Oh, Jesus.
and so all that meant for Sam is just more caffeine. So he's probably like a small part of him stoked about it because he just gets to have more coffee.
Yeah.
Go about and do dad things. So
Yeah. Yesterday was
which
rough. I haven't had a day where I was that tired in a long time. Um,
I
but
believe it.
we're kind of back to a pseudo normal schedule. My son isn't, but that's neither here nor there. So
Yeah.
I had a fever dream idea of discussing some of the best resources for CrossFitters. And really, to me, it like it can be both for CrossFit trainers and CrossFit athletes. And
Yep.
and this came about because so I work as a demo slash assistant for the gymnastics course, which is CrossFit gymnastics, and every weekend, without fail, somebody will come to us at some point in the weekend and say, "Well, what about X, Y, or Z?" And typically, it's some kind of uh, jury rigged um, mechanism, which is the only word I can think of to allow a human being to figure out a bar muscle up, right?
Hmm.
And if you've a while back, there was that thing where people would take from the crossbar, they take the band, they bring the band down, and then they loop the band around a foam roller, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
right? And so they
Yeah,
put the foam roller between their like the band between their legs and the foam roller under their butt, and they would like swing on the
yeah.
foam roller slash band and
Yep.
then do a little hip hop, and then like all of a sudden they're other, and they're like, well, people always ask like, what about things like that? And we joke about it
No.
internally because like it's you want to just flat out say no, but like there are underlying principles involved, and like that's the point of the course. And this is not we're not gonna make this a gymnastics thing today, but there's a lot of stuff
Hmm.
out there, right? And especially with the advent of social media, um, sifting through that is time consuming and
Yep.
and difficult. Um, and I think one of the best ways that we can use our time, and we'll just sit here and we'll talk the shit about just about anything we want to, but we can
Mhm.
actually be useful, I think
We
maybe,
can.
and act as a filter
Wait.
for some of this stuff.
You mean me going on a rant on our last episode about how the CrossFit Games should ban grips and just like if you're gonna don't don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing type deal.
Yes, yes, the Ron Swanson approach for
Yeah.
dealing with things at the games. Well,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
so so what we tell people at CrossFit Gymnastics is, and Birdie's really really good about this. Birdie's line is, "I will tell you when what we are presenting is a fact that is rooted in physics or sports science literature, or if it's an opinion. But
hmm
if I tell you it's my opinion, it's probably a pretty good opinion, right?"
Yep.
And the very next thing he says is, "You should critique everything." And
hmm
like as
Yeah.
we present
Question
the course,
everything.
you should, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like,
100%.
you people should critique the course, people should critique especially the things they see on social media. And so in an attempt to help people do that, right,
Hmm.
we can try to, you know, cut through the crap, right? So
Yeah.
resources, right, for CrossFit trainers, CrossFit athletes. If you were to start someplace,
hmm
and let's assume it's not like, what is CrossFit? Let's assume a person knows what CrossFit is. They're gonna they're gonna go they've been doing CrossFit. They want to get better at something, right? So these are
hmm
resources for CrossFitters, and this could apply to a trainer or an athlete. If you were going to start one place, where would you point someone to?
CrossFit.com. End of podcast.
That's what I think. Yeah.
CrossFit.com.
So
It's so that's the
CrossFit.com has gone through some iterations in the last 5 years or so.
they have, yes, very much so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think if we're thinking about this from, and I'll start from a coaching angle, and again, we can come at this from multiple different angles and perspectives. But
Mm.
from a coaching perspective, if I am coach and I just, I'm gonna come at this from the perspective of I've done my level one and I've been coaching at
Yep.
an affiliate for a little bit, like somewhere between 6 to 12 months. You haven't taken
Hmm.
your level two yet, but you're like, I like this coaching thing. I want to do more of it and
Right.
get better at it and learn stuff
Yes.
about it. The number one, hands down, best resource, period, full stop, is CrossFit.com. Um,
Mm.
the amount of CrossFit Journal articles that you can
Mm.
like read one CrossFit Journal. Wow, it just shows you how gonna die.
Yeah.
One CrossFit Journal article per day, and
Mm.
you start from the beginning and work your way to the end. We'll see you
Wow.
in 6 years. Um,
Yeah.
there's so much information on there from both written articles and videos and tutorials and listening to Ben Bergeron talk about how to run an affiliate from his
Mm.
affiliate course, to
Mm.
hearing Mark Ripito go off about low bar back squats, to learning about the conjugate method, to different gymnastic stuff, to nutrition. Like it runs the gambit of everything. And some of it is exactly as you're saying, Birdie says, like some of it is like, nope, this is what it is, this is a
Mm.
fact. And some of it
Mm.
is very much anecdote. one of my
Yes,
favorite articles in the journal, I'm sure you've read it, maybe you haven't, maybe you'll go look it up after this, is an
maybe.
article that Nicole Carroll wrote about her experience with the zone diet when she first started.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Great
okay,
article.
phenomenal article. I love it. Um, if you haven't read it, go on to the CrossFit Journal. I believe the title is like something about like off the crack, off the couch, or something like that. Um,
Something like that.
or it definitely mentions crack in some way, shape, or form in reference to sugar. But that article
Getting
is
Off the Crack by Nicole Carroll.
okay. So I'm not too crazy. Um,
No?
so getting off the crack by Nicole Carroll is the name of the article. Phenomenal. Now in that there's
Hmm.
she references her experience starting the zone diet, um, how she felt, how she asked Greg for help when it wasn't going perfectly, um,
Hmm.
and then how she kind of adapted it for her and what she needed. It's still the zone diet. She just essentially
Hmm.
like there's like a fat play. If you don't know what the zone diet is, start back at what is the zone diet and work your way forward.
Right.
Um,
Sure.
but there's basically like a way you can adjust your fat blocks depending on the amount of training you're doing and essentially your activity factor in that
Hmm.
equation. And so she wasn't making the fat adjustment, and she was training really hard and was like a high level CrossFitter. And
Hmm.
Greg was just like, start like just up, go from 1x fat to 3x fat, and then
Yep.
boom, bang, bang, there she went. And then she was like, I'm a human weapon now. And so an article like that, phenomenal, great information. It is purely anecdote. It's an article that
Hmm.
she wrote based on her experience on the thing. However, like, we know that the zone diet works. You can go buy a
Hmm.
book by Dr. Barry Sears about it. Phenomenal book, by the way. Don't ask me the title of that one. I can't remember. It might just be the zone diet. Um,
I think it's called Into the Zone.
okay, I think you're right. Um, and phenomenal book. Anyways, there's articles all throughout the journal of
Oh, I was so
anecdote.
close. Enter the Zone.
Oh, you're close. Um,
So close.
but yeah, that's where I would start is CrossFit Journal articles. Um, and once you've kind of, even if there's just something really specific you want to learn about in CrossFit,
Right.
you can definitely find a handful of articles by a handful of people that are going to give you different perspectives that you can like, you know, take what makes sense, leave alone what doesn't, and kind of
Yep.
go forth and be awesome with it. So that's where I would
Hmm.
start. Um, do you have a different like, what would be like? I'll ask you two questions. If
Okay.
so, let's say they start there. You are a CrossFit trainer. You got
Uh-huh.
your level one. You've been going 6 to 12 months, and you
Okay.
dove into the journal, and you're like, did it, read all the journal articles, got it, watched the videos, read the thing. What next? Like where would you direct someone next? It's a great question.
It's a great question. First of all, I want to make a distinction between CrossFit.com and the CrossFit Journal.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Like, so because of the user interface changes to CrossFit.com, it is not apparent how to get to the CrossFit Journal if you just go to the webpage.
You might
Um,
just need to Google the CrossFit Journal. It's probably the easiest way to
it's
do it.
it journal.crossfit.com will
Yep.
get you there directly. Um,
Yep.
and there are some things that are on the CrossFit main site that are like reproductions or not, but like they're trying to do something similar to the journal, but it falls under the bracket of essentials or specific to coaching. There's a section called the professional coach, which is,
Mhm.
resources for coaches. But I mean, really, for those of us who have been around long enough and who know, the journal has been doing the same thing. And
Mhm.
for me personally, like why they don't bring back the journal and put it all under the umbrella of the journal, I don't understand.
I
Um,
loved the journal when they stopped making posts on there. That was
I
the
know.
sad day because because they would update, like a couple articles per week,
Yeah.
when they were cooking, and so like
Yeah.
I literally I'm sure you did the same thing because we're both nerds.
Yeah.
is like I would check the journal each day. Did they put a new article? Did they put something new up there?
Yeah.
And like I would stay on it. And so like all of a sudden they make their final post, and they didn't announce it was the final post. They didn't like say anything
Yeah.
about it.
It
Not, at least not to
stopped.
my knowledge. It just stopped.
No.
And so I'm checking each day. I'm like, they post something new. And when it went like a week or two without a post, I was like, maybe they're working on something really big. Maybe this next thing's gonna be amazing.
Mm,
And then it's been 6 years since then. So I'm just like, well, all right then. It must
yeah.
be really big.
Yeah. Right. Um, if I was going to have an athlete or a trainer, so they've done the journal articles, right?
Yep. Yep.
The very next place I would have them go is the level two manual.
Mm,
Um, the level two manual does a there's a lot baked into the level two course, right?
mm-hmm.
In practice, you are stepping away from this is the CrossFit methodology as it is presented vis-a-vis the lectures and the breakout groups from the level one. Like, and if you've taken your level two, you know very clearly the level one does not make you a coach. The level one is not designed to teach you how to coach.
Nope.
Um, it is an introduction to CrossFit, which is funny because now they have a CrossFit introduction or fundamentals course, which is like a 1 day version of the level one seminar. Um, which, okay, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, eh. So,
Yeah. 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 Same. Same.
so moving
Same.
on.
Same. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when you get to the level two course, it is, and hopefully you've been coaching for a little bit, you've been training for a little bit, and so you can come there with some bad habits so that you get a deep dive into how to think systematically about your coaching. And so the six characteristics of a trainer, so the teaching, seeing, correcting, group management, presence, and attitude demonstration, um, and then and the training guide covers those in depth, multiple paragraphs for each
Mm-hmm.
one. When we say, first of all, a definition for teaching as it applies to uh, CrossFit, and then a small essay devoted to the concept of teaching and how to do it at its highest possible level.
Yep.
And then you go there and they put you in front of another human being, a single human being, and while a seminar staff person with a clipboard stands there and watches you with everyone else in your breakout group, they're like, cool, coach this human on one of the 9 fundamental movements for 5 minutes. Ready, go.
Yep. Yep.
Like you get to,
And
there's a little
and
bit more than that.
yeah, and it's so hard. I mean, anyone that's been following along for a while, like we recounted my horror story of when Greg Martino was having me coach the
Yeah.
air squat for 5 minutes and it took me 2 seconds.
Mm.
Um,
And
like it's
everybody has that
yeah,
same experience.
yep. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I think the level two guide, the level two course, great next step
Mm.
to learning more, getting better. Um,
But there's more than that. Like, so you could deep dive on the 6 traits of an effective trainer, the six or the teaching, seeing, correcting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like Denise Thomas, the CDP, one of the things that makes Denise so phenomenal is she takes that so far.
mhm.
Like, you don't realize how far you can take something like that until you spend some time with her and
Yep.
you really watch her do her thing, and it's really really cool. But baked into that manual, there's also things like, let's have an actual discussion about programming. How do we evaluate programming? How, like, and they give you a chart. This, like, here's a spreadsheet. Fill it
Mhm.
out. Where you have zeros is where you are missing shit. And, like,
Yep.
that's where you need to put your attention. It's instant way. I built one for in Google Sheets to assess the variance um, of training protocols. And I even built a comparison one. And so it was, I took a relatively varied section of, I think it was hand plan or cat programming. I can't remember which one. And then I will
Mhm.
take another group and I'll plug all the workouts in, and it will compare them and give me like a score. And
Ooh.
and so like based on that, it's like I can tell you that you bias just like looking at the numbers. You bias toward 20-minute AMRAPs. You don't do anything under 10 minutes. You love to clean and you hate to snatch, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't teach anything advanced in terms of like gymnastics movements. And like
Yep.
it's all there in the data. And just
Mm-hmm.
being aware of things like that, I've had entire affiliates change how they approach things because they realize that they will come to me and they'll say, "We're an old school CrossFit gym." And then I'll say, "This is what you do." And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Shit." They have no
Yep.
choice but to like, adjust what they say they want to do, or um, adjust what they're doing to match what they say.
Yep. Um, that's cool. So I'm guessing whenever you put like a program into the comparison thing, like just Cap wins champion.
It's it's not so much that Cap wins. So and we've had this discussion before, like
Mhm.
evaluating good programming or bad programming is incredibly subjective, right?
Yep.
What I can tell you is what you are doing CrossFit or
Right.
not, right?
I love Pat's post the other day, Pat Barber, where like he
Yeah.
posted a post that was like,
Yeah.
does your gym actually do CrossFit? And then he goes, before everyone loses their mind,
Yeah.
consider that this, and he explained it, like laid it out. He's like, this is what CrossFit is.
Yes.
Anything that's not this is not CrossFit. It's something that's
By
being called,
definition.
by definition, it's not CrossFit. It's something that's being called CrossFit. So
Yes.
knowing this, ask yourself again, does your gym do CrossFit? And I loved it. And the repost was amazing, where I was just like, hey,
The
if you read through this post and you feel the need to defend your gym, then the answer is no.
yeah. Yeah.
Like straight up, that's what it is. And
Oh,
that, again, that like we've talked about this, where like gyms are free to do what they want to do. That's the beauty yet curse of the affiliate model. But
mm-hmm.
if you read through this post
Mm-hmm.
and your feelings are hurt and you feel like you need to defend your gym, or whatever, defend your coaches, then the answer is no.
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
just, what do you do with that? Where do you go from here?
Yeah.
I had that. Did you read through the comments at all of that post? It
Oh,
was
oh yes. In fact,
it's amazing.
someone messaged me, one of the TGC
Yeah.
staff, Joyce from Belgium. She's like, "Have you seen the comments?" And I
Yeah.
went and I immediately started reading, and fucking Barber went in with both hands swinging, like
Oh, he
fearless.
came in guns bla Oh yeah. Well, the thing was, like, I saw people in there. Like, I go into the comments and
Yep.
I was like, oh, like, people are upset right now.
Yeah.
Like, there was
Yeah.
one person who basically, like, the gist of their, I don't even remember exactly what they said, but the gist of their comment was, you don't know what you're talking about. What we're doing works, so therefore fuck off, essentially. And I was like,
Right.
wow. I was like, you can't. I'm like,
But
I'm
you
like, do you know who
can, and
Pat Barber is? Do you, like you
but that's
can,
and
but
like
like, bro, that's a
yeah.
just a
What's funny is
trash.
Pat is so and and I can say this confidently, having talked with him several times
Uh-huh.
about this particular subject. Like he's gotten to a place like he's emotionally healthy enough about this particular
Yeah,
topic that he can
yeah.
have it and he can let you like spout off in his face, and he's like, okay, that's cool, but let's come back and talk about this,
Yeah.
and he's the
That's
really
that's the
annoying,
trick
like,
is
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the trick, is like getting, whatever human is, having a go, and
Mm,
all sorts of pissed off, like letting it, like trying to get that human that's like defending their gym and their coaches and whatever they're doing, like to the death, trying to get that person to be
yeah.
like, all right, that's cool. Let's have an
Hmm.
actual conversation about it. That's a
Yeah.
hard thing to do. That's a hard thing to do.
So
Anyways,
and
we're talking about
well,
evaluating programming.
we're still talking about evaluating programs. So like now, and this is very kind of to a certain extent has been very coach centric. You know,
Hmm.
you you read the journal articles, and there's if you're an interested athlete and you're a nerd like
Mhm.
us, you'll
Yep.
probably get a lot out of the journal articles. Um,
Mhm.
but to a certain extent, like the journal has always been for the trainers. It has always been a resource to help inform people. And it would be great. Like, I have a handful of athletes who are movement nerds and they want to know, why we do certain things. Like, I'll never forget. I had a guy be like, we're coaching the overhead squat, and I'm telling him the bar is going to sit a little behind your head when you're at the bottom of the overhead squat. And he's like, wait, what? And I'm like, you know, just trust me, the bar is going to transit a little bit behind you, but it will still be balanced. He's like, he looks at everybody else. He's like, can we talk about this for a minute? And so I took 3 minutes and I did a little whiteboard drawing and be like, when you sit at the bottom, the bar is going to be over your midfoot, but that means that relative to the other parts of your body, blah, 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 right? So I've got a
Right.
couple people like that. But mostly, not mostly, a lot of the time, it feels like athletes are on their own.
Mhm.
Like there's whatever their coach says that they should do, and they
Mhm.
take them at their word, and God bless them for trusting us, right?
Yep.
And slash or they go to Instagram.
Mhm.
And now it's the Wild West and anything flies. And there's that asshole who like hooked two rubber bands to a hook on his ceiling and did handstand push-ups like partially supported with this
Yep. Like
jury
reverse
rig
band
fucking bungee
tension.
thing.
Yep.
Exactly. Like, so there's all kinds of stuff out there, right? If you were going to point an athlete toward resources, and I think for most athletes, it's going to be how do I get X movement or how do I get better at X movement, right? So it's very check the box oriented.
Yep. Mhm.
Where would you begin to point people? It's a
That's
broad
great.
question, I know.
It's a really broad question. The thing that's really hard with social media, especially because that is sometimes a great thing. Like, hey, just like go check out this account. This person's a good follow. Whatever it is.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
it's really hard for our athletes, people that don't work in
Mm,
the fitness space
mm,
to like decipher what's a good source of information, what's a
yep.
bad source of information, or maybe not even bad, just not appropriate for what you're trying to do. Um,
Yep.
so I think that's something that's really difficult to decipher. And in terms of resources, I mean, most people that are putting out content are
Hmm.
putting out content on social media in some way, shape, or form, even if that's not their primary offering, um,
Yep.
just to put stuff out there. I think if
You
someone,
mean content for the sake of content, not content for the sake of value or information.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, like, it's that's a really good question. Where would I put something if they're like, I want to get better at some movement? Where would I point someone? I
Here's
mean,
here's your chance to talk about a bunch of accounts you follow.
well, that's true. I was gonna say the first place you could point them if you're a confident coach is be like, hey, I'll work with you on something. Um,
There is that. There is that. And
so
that like and
there is
coaches
definitely that.
don't pass that up.
Nope. Um, I mean, some great accounts for following stuff that is good, as for gymnastics, CrossFit Gymnastics or the gymnastics course on Instagram
Mm,
puts a whole bunch of stuff. Another great one would be like Dave Durante or Power Monkey, um,
mm,
is good for gymnastic stuff. So those are probably my two favorites for like educational gymnastic stuff. Um,
mm.
oh, wait, there was a third one. What is drawing a blank on her name? She's down at Mayhem
Pam
now and
Gagnon.
does that one.
Yep.
There, I'm like, I can see her face. Pam Gagnon. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, Pam Gagnon, great one.
Hmm.
In terms of learning gymnastic stuff. We flip to the other side of the thing. If we're looking like weightlifting stuff, snatch, the Bergner strength, I think you'd be a fool not to follow those guys. They put a whole bunch of
Yeah.
great information out there. Um,
Yep.
I'm also Catalyst Athletics with Greg and
Hmm.
Amy Everett.
Greg Everett, baby.
Yeah, Greg and Amy Everett, great resource. And
Yeah.
then California Strength does a really good job with their athletes as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just weightlifters, but they do sports performance stuff as well. Like they
Hmm.
prepare, they do a whole NFL combine shit every year, and they get like NFL players in there. And they're prepping players for the combine and the whole thing. So that they do some really cool stuff over at Cal Strength. Um,
Hmm.
some of the coolest videos, I'm sure you know this, like the old Boom Cal Strength days of John North and Donnie
Oh
Shankle,
yeah.
just throwing chalk and slamming bars and flinging stuff everywhere and just being,
Yes.
some jabronis. Those are some
Hmm.
some special videos for sure. Glenn Pendlay had something special in the sauce while he was over there for sure.
Sure.
Um, so those would be kind of like my three for weightlifting. So we are like a little 3 and 3 there. Um,
Mm.
how about you? You got any? I mean, I have more that I can just rattle off. Like there's so many great
Sure.
resources in the CrossFit space, but
Um, so it's important for me to say that like some of these people that we're talking about are specialists. And so
mhm,
like Greg Everett has in modern social media, Greg Everett has done maybe more than anyone else in terms of providing free, valuable information. His Instagram and the Catalyst Athletics Instagram is it's a fucking scroll fest where everything is, are you catching the snatch too high or too low? Why can't you get out of this position? Like, you got a weakness here. This is what you want to do. And like, all of these are videos that are connected to articles that he has written. And they're all available for free. And that's a huge, titanic resource.
they have a bunch of their
If
programs that are on their website for free too. There's a good
absolutely. And so
chunk of
then,
like
and
just
then there's,
these like template ones. Yeah,
yes. And then there's all that stuff where it can, so if you're a CrossFit trainer, there are some things that you hear, for example, at the level one, when we talk about certain things that will differ from what they tell you.
yep,
Um, and that is not to say that either is right and another is wrong. Um, Greg Everett is not attempting to teach anyone how to improve their metabolic capacity or their, you know, artistic gymnastics skill. He's a weightlifter. He addresses weightlifting, and he does so phenomenally, right? Um,
yep.
and so, some of the things I can absolutely see a trainer or an athlete being like, I don't understand. Why is this guy saying this and these people are saying this? Like that needs to be said. Um, if I was gonna instead of offering like um, accounts to follow, and like all of these people that you mentioned are phenomenal. They
Mhm.
really are. And TGC, I'm obviously biased. That's so like we should say that at the outset, right? I'm employed
Yep.
by CrossFit Gymnastics. Um, I think that Pam Gagnon is great, which is it shouldn't be that crazy because she was on the CrossFit Gymnastics team for forever. And from a weightlifting side, the entire Bergner family, Mike Bergner is the goddamn godfather of American Olympic weightlifting. So
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
if you want to learn something like that, you want to go to the fount, go to the source. I think that it can be really deceptive to have someone say, well, just do this, or just read this, or just go here and look at this, when people are looking for solutions. And
Mhm.
I don't think that anyone at Berkner or anyone at TGC, or that like Chris Henshaw from aerobic
Hmm.
capacity, none of these people are
Yep.
offering solutions. They're offering knowledge
Hmm.
that can be employed to
Right.
make you better at X, right?
Hmm.
Which is great and terrible. It's great because once you understand principles, you can do a lot of things and you're a more capable person, but the onus is on you to do the work, right?
Right. Right.
And it is more popular, let's say, when someone posts something that says, do this and you'll get a bar muscle up, or do this to, you know, get more confident with your snatch.
Yeah.
And the thing that I would encourage people instead of like, I'm not going to call any out. I'm not going to call out anybody or any accounts or anything like that. I got close to that earlier and I really don't want to do that. I would rather say, I think that when you observe something and you're like, oh, that's interesting, the very next question should be, why is that interesting or why does that work? Right. Um, and, there's an old saying, believe nothing you hear and only half of what you see.
Hmm.
And especially in the world of AI, deepfake, face generation shit, like that is doubly true.
Yep.
Um, there's a lot of stuff that will, and I'm going to use gymnastics as an example because it's the most frustrating for people. Like
Mhm.
anybody can get eerily comfortable and confident with a barbell, like at a load that is appropriate to them.
Right.
But the skill based things, the things that like you've got to like figure some shit out between your ears and then like do it and practice it. And then you have to figure out how to do it at your body weight, right? That's just inherently more difficult. So if you see something and it's like, oh, do this, and all of a sudden you're on top of the pull up bar, and like, yeah, you did your bar muscle up, right?
Hmm.
So here's a great here's a great question, right? If you've never done a bar muscle up and you want to figure out a bar muscle up, so a banded variation or some other thing, right?
Hmm.
What happens if it goes well, right? You're, let's say average, you're a male, you're 5'9". You're
Hmm.
swinging on a bar that's 7.5 feet above the ground. All of a sudden, you are on top of that bar, which means from your arm to that thing, your skull is now 10 feet on top away from the ground. You've never been up there, right? How
Right.
uncomfortable and disorienting is that going to be? In,
Very.
like maybe we want to spend a little bit of time in that position before you're 10 feet in the air. So like
Right. Yep.
this can be this like so instead it's like instead of worrying about getting over the bar, how about we figure out what it's like to be on top of the bar so that when you
Hmm.
get over the bar, because you will, it's not fucking terrifying. And so
Right.
like low bar, support holds, or if you could do a pullover, like where you do a pull up and your feet come over the bar, which is like it looks like you're just playing around, and you kind of are, and it's a lot of fun. But it also teaches you the very vitally important skill of being on top of the pull up bar without having to worry about a bar muscle up. Um,
Hmm.
and so if you have a thing that's going to teach you X, it's going to help you solve the problem or check the box. Why does that thing work? Is that a long term solution? Right. And if you look at it and you're like, well, maybe not, but that's fine. Like you can do lots of stuff and we can have fun and you can, the bar muscle up is a favorite because everybody wants it, right? You can
Hmm.
swing around on a band and get up on top of a pull up bar. You could do that forever if you want to. The question I want people to ask for themselves is this actually teaching me something though?
Hmm.
You know? Um, and what I don't want for athletes or for trainers is for people to be frustrated, you know, because they get
Yep.
frustrated and they don't make progress. And then sometimes that comes back on their coaches. Well, my
Hmm.
coach sucked because they couldn't help me figure out X, Y, or Z. Or CrossFit doesn't work because I couldn't figure out X, Y, or Z. And that's not the case, and it doesn't have to be like that. So
Right.
if athletes, trainers have the journal and they have, the manuals, athletes have some phenomenal resources and some not so phenomenal resources, right? But we've
Hmm.
encouraged them to bring their critical thinking skills to bear. What is the thing, lightning round? What is the thing you see talked about the least that needs to be talked about more?
Like just in general in
In
CrossFit or
in
like in
general,
specific?
in general, relative to CrossFit.
Something that doesn't get talked about that needs to be talked about more.
Yeah.
Um, the this may be a more complex answer than you were hoping for, but this is something that I've really been um, trying to do at Tilt at our gym in Sudbury
Yep.
is, the coaches, yes, you need to like keep people safe, bring them through a
Hmm.
workout, the whole thing.
Hmm.
I think a lot of coaches miss or forget their role to educate their members just about CrossFit, the whole thing. So, for an example, um, I was having a conversation with a member yesterday. We have a workout of the day, and we're
Hmm.
going through. And as I'm briefing them at the whiteboard, I'm like, "This is the stimulus I'm going for.
Hmm.
This is how fast this should be. This is what it should feel like. This is the type of loading we're looking for, and I'm expecting this many rounds, essentially." So you're like basically trying to
Yep.
set them up for success to get the stimulus and adaptation I'm looking for.
Yep.
And I had a member ask a question, and I love when members ask these questions because it gives me,
Yeah.
it gives me a chance to educate without being like, all right, sit down, children, we're going to talk about stuff. Um,
Right.
so they're like, how come this workout was this way, or how come this was programmed on this day and there was maybe either a similar movement pattern or a similar muscle group that was used on a previous day? How come that's? And I was like,
Hmm.
well, was like, first off, we can't really look at things just strictly in muscle groups. If we do pull-ups on Monday, then it's like, all right, that's it, no more arms the rest of the week.
Right.
Well, all right, then, like, you're severely limited in your options at that point.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so I'm like, there's going to be some kind of overlapping of muscle groups and potentially movement patterns as we go through the week.
Hmm.
But like when I'm writing a workout,
Hmm.
I'm looking for a specific stimulus and looking for something specific to get out of it. And
Hmm.
as we go through the week, it might be that, and I use the example as like, it might be that we deadlift on, Monday or Tuesday, and we're doing power cleans on Friday. And you
Right.
look at it on paper, you're like, ooh, those are two like hinging, pulling off the floor movements.
Yeah.
But the way that they're applied, I'm like, one might be heavy, one might be really light and fast, one might be higher
Yep.
volume, one might be lower volume. Like there is a balance there. And your member just looking at the workout on the app might
Yep.
be looking at this and be like, well, my legs are a little sore today, so I'm going to skip this one. And it's like, well,
Mm.
if you had come in, the stimulus I was looking for
Hmm.
was not going to bother your legs, your soreness.
Hmm.
Like that's not, I'm not sitting there writing workouts just to wreck people. So contrary to popular belief. And so uh, I'm like, I'm looking for this, and the magic is that delivery of the
Hmm.
workout and how the members should execute it is provided to them by the coaches. I'm like, the
Hmm.
workout could be 3 rounds, or let's for keep it simple, Fran, 21, 15, 9
Yep.
thrusters and pull-ups. If I
Yep.
brief that workout and I'm like, I want everything done unbroken, and I'm looking for everyone to be sub 4, that's different. Listen, I'm not done. That's different
I know.
from,
I know.
hey guys, you're going to pick a thruster load that allows you to get all your rounds in 3 sets or better, and we're shooting for like sub 8. Like it's the
Yes.
same. It's the same workout, but it's a different workout. You know, like
I'm
it's
just imagining two people in the same class getting
yeah.
different instructions and be like,
Oh yeah,
one guy is going to get fucking hammered.
yeah. but it's like you can see there that like that's the same workout, but a different
Yeah.
workout. Like that, like
Yeah.
the so Sam that went through and finished in 4 minutes, and me that went
Yeah.
through and finished in 8 minutes, we feel vastly different after our
Oh.
experiences in that workout. Sam quit his gym and he's never going back. And I'm like, all right, what's next?
Right?
But it's like that right there, that little bit is that's the responsibility of the coaches to deliver those things to your
Hmm.
members, because I know for a fact, and if you coach in CrossFit, you've been in CrossFit, you are a CrossFitter, you know this to be true. If I were just to put
Yep.
Monday through Friday on the whiteboard, be like, hey guys, these are the workouts for the week, have fun, and just
Mm.
leave my members to their own devices, every single workout, they're going to choose the heaviest weight that they can possibly do for that
Yep.
movement. And they're going to put the gas pedal through the fucking floor at 3, 2, 1, go. And they're going to be wrecked by
Yeah.
the warm up on Wednesday. Like they're not going to
Yeah.
make it. So the variance in stimulus and how things get approached and
Mm.
implemented and executed is such a vital detail, but it can almost be seen
Mm.
as like nuance, because it's like the workout is the workout, but it's how I want you to execute it. And so it can
Yeah.
seem like such a small detail, and it doesn't get talked about a massive amount
Hmm.
outside of, like, I know if you're a high level CrossFit competitor, they nerd out about things because
Yeah.
they're like, well, the row should take this long and the thruster should take this long. And that, like, they're again dialing in all the different movement um, metrics and different variables that they can to try and like optimize their performance. So
Hmm.
if you're a super high level CrossFit competitor, that might be a conversation you have with your coach, your training partners,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Hmm.
It doesn't really get talked about as much inside an affiliate. And I think it's definitely a miss, because then you have people that, again, they see the workout on the app and they're like, I'm not going to go today. It's like, well,
Yeah.
if you had come in, you would have been given something that was the appropriate stimulus for that day to keep you moving the needle, but also keep you healthy, injury free, the
Yeah.
whole thing, keeping you on the trajectory to awesomeness.
Hmm.
Um, so it was a really cool moment to have that conversation with my 8:30 class yesterday when someone asked a question.
Yeah.
I was like, hey guys, like I'm not just chucking random stuff on a board. I'm not sitting down being like, hey, how can I fuck up Sam today? Um, that's the Sam being fucked up by my friend is just a happy coincidence
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the getting fitter. But I'm not sitting there like, hey, how can I ruin people? Um,
Right.
and even though the workouts might look like, wow, that's a week that's gonna wreck me, it's like, well, only if you approach it wrong.
Right.
Like if you approach this with, I'm gonna dial the intensity to 11 for all 6 days
Hmm.
that week, then yeah, you're gonna be
Hmm.
pretty fucked up on Sunday. But
Yeah.
if you approach that, like if you listen to your coaches, let them kind of guide you through the week, you'll end up feeling like, all right, definitely got some fitness. There were some moments in there where it was not pleasant. However,
Hmm.
I'm all right. Like let's bring
Yep.
on next week type deal. So
Yep.
that was probably a longer answer. That definitely was not lightning round. But that's like something that I think that people don't have conversations like that in affiliates, as at
Right.
least in my experience, as much. So
Yeah.
next question.
Well, now I don't know where I would want to where I would want to go and what I would want to touch on. Um,
Wow.
I'm thinking myself about things now that like aren't talked about enough.
Okay.
Um,
What's your answer? Answer your own question. What is something that isn't talked about? And don't talk about you fucking wrapping your thumbs. I swear to God.
no, no, not so much that. It's something that we've talked around, but it's come up more and more often recently in other conversations I've had with other coaches. Is that um, athletes who are members in your gym do
Mhm.
not understand the difference between coaching and programming. Um,
Yep. That's kind
and
of similar, like a bigger picture of like, I was really nuanced with my answer, but like that's definitely
yeah,
part of it, that like you have the programming on the whiteboard and then it's the coach that delivers it. Um,
yeah.
so that's a good one. That's,
Well, and
because 100%. accurate.
Well, it, and you and I can say that, but there's like a deeper, like more sinister consequence of that whole thing, right? Which is because like what happens is a member goes and they do a workout, they have an experience, right? And their conclusion at the end of that experience is, well, I didn't like that workout. That must have been a bad workout. Or I didn't like this week's workouts. That must be like, it
Bad
must be
programming
bad
this week.
programming.
Yep.
Exactly. And so, like, they
Mm,
shoot off a message typically to their affiliate owner, and their affiliate owner is like, well, I guess we need to change programming, and that's obviously, hopefully
yeah.
it's more complicated than that. But like, I know
Yes.
some affiliate owners who are not constantly, but have changed programming sources several times in like a short window of time.
Yeah.
Um, and
Same.
so my hot take on this is the programming wasn't bad. It wasn't bad to begin with, and it wasn't bad when you changed it again. The hot take is the coaches don't know how to implement it. And
Yep.
that's, to a certain extent, kind of throwing a gauntlet down. Um, because if, as a coach, the way you've been brought up and like your pedigree or your lineage in terms of like who taught you and who taught them and all that stuff, you only know what you know. And so
Uh-huh.
if you've only ever done, like, I know a group that does DECA comp, and if you know DECA, like there's like four pieces to every workout, and it's supposed to be affiliate programming, but it's not. Like so many of these affiliate
Yeah.
programming systems, it's an individual competitor program that has
Yeah.
been customized,
Just
quote unquote.
shoved in a 60-minute class.
Absolutely,
It's
absolutely.
because
And
every competitor company or competitor programming company rather has like their 90-minute option where it's like,
yeah,
hey, here's like, you want to compete, but you can't do our full 4 hour thing. So here's a 90-minute thing, a condensed version.
yeah,
And so people do that because it gives them like a little, like they get to do their extra stuff, but it's like usually 3 or 4 pieces. And then
minimum.
when that same exact company goes, we're going to offer affiliate program, they take that 90-minute
Yeah,
track and they just shove that bitch in a 60-minute window. And
yeah.
they're like, there you go, done.
And so there are some examples where like, like DECA is like on the extreme end of like the amount of stuff they try to shove into 60 minutes. And so
Yes.
you'd be hard pressed to get all the work in, let alone do so effectively.
Right.
Um, and if that's all you've ever known, then you've never actually been asked to what I would call step up as a coach and deliver an experience independent of the script that is the like workout of the day and the warm up that is prescribed and all of that other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you could, like, we both know coaches who, my favorite example of this is, 500-meter row for time, right?
Oh,
A 500-meter row for time. And I did this as an example when I was doing coaching development at One Nation before I left and moved to Maine.
mm-hmm.
500-meter row for time. It's not a long workout. It's like less than 2 minutes,
Yep.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
males and females.
Yep.
But as a coach, there's kind of like, my opinion is there's two coaches. There's the coaches that look at the workout of the day, and the workout of the day reads 500-meter row for time. Like no multiples, no rounds, no AMRAP, no pre-workout strength session or something like that. Just for time, 500-meter row. Two coaches. The first says, fuck yes, let's get it. The second says, oh fuck, 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 oh fuck. How am I going to fill 60 minutes?
Yeah.
Right?
Or it's just like, or, coach two could also like look at the thing like, hey guys, week of programming's been posted. They look at the week and they see the 500 euro time and they go, oh, fucking stupid. Like,
Yeah.
that's also coach number two.
Yep. 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 Or like similar reaction, maybe not exact, but similar. And what it comes down to is like, there's no place to hide as a
Nope.
coach. You you actually have to deliver an experience for something like that. And going back to that person who's only ever done DECA, like
Hmm.
your
They don't know what to do.
ed, your education as a coach has prepared you very poorly to execute well on something like that. And that's not to say at all that someone couldn't do it, right?
Mhm.
I'm just saying that if you've never done anything like that ever, like most things, the first time you do it, it's not going to be the best possible. So
Right.
I think that that's not, and so the person who goes and experiences for time 500-meter row and has a negative experience because the class was boring or because they don't feel like they got a good workout or a good warm up, they didn't get it, it was too short, like that's not because that's a bad workout. That was a poorly executed class by that
Hmm.
coach, you
Yep.
know? But it's not the members' job to know that. It's
Nope.
our job as coaches and our affiliate owners' jobs. And that is a place where like we as coaches, like if what I've just said, if you feel the need to steal your words, if you feel the need to defend yourself, right?
Yep. Yeah.
The very just like if you like someone's on Instagram and they're like, that looks like a good idea. The very next words out of your mouth should be, why do I think that's a good idea? Right?
Hmm.
And so if I told a story just now and you as a coach, you're like, but wait, the first words out of your mouth should be, why do I feel the need to defend myself? Or why do I
Hmm.
feel the need to defend my affiliate? And it could
Because
very well
you
be that there
can't
are some,
coach the 500-meter row class.
maybe,
I'm sorry.
and maybe it's that simple.
You know, I'll come right out and
I'll be
say it.
that guy.
It's the same thing as I'll be that guy. I'll come right
Yeah,
out and say it. Same as the if you feel the need to defend your gym, then you're not doing CrossFit. If you feel the need
right.
to defend whatever, or it's like I should feel that way. That's not enough stuff. It's like, well, then you can't coach that
Mm,
class well,
yeah,
you can't
yeah,
coach. So, um, I mean, let's be honest. If you're doing 500-meter row time trial on that class, that's the workout of the day. You need to allot 37 minutes for people to roll around on the floor afterwards.
it's so
Oh my god.
bad.
I'm like, oh, it's horrible. Would you like this is because us being longer folks, we're like rowing.
Sure.
Yay.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
which one like this is just a random, like has nothing to do
Mhm.
with what scares you more. If you walk in the gym and on the whiteboard you see 500-meter row for time, or you walk in the gym and on the whiteboard you see a 2K row for time.
2K row, no doubt.
Okay.
Like and I've heard this before and I agree with it. 500-meter row is short enough that it's over before I know that, right?
You can kind of outrun the
And I
speed.
know, yeah, and I know this because I did it. One day in class, we had a 500-meter row,
Yeah.
and and like there was a lot of shit talking back and forth between myself and the members, and they're like, "Fucking get on a rower, Sam, go do it." And I called. I'm like, "All right, assholes, here we go." Because like as a coach in a 500-meter row, I'm just cheerleading, right? Like
Right.
they're going so fast. There's no coaching going on. All that stuff has already
Right.
happened.
Yeah.
So I pull out a spare rower and like I'm gonna go cold bore, no warm up. The only
Yeah.
thing I've done that day is coach classes, and
Yeah.
so I haul on and I PR'd my 500-meter row cold bore with no warm up in a class,
Nice.
and I would one not be able to do that with a 2K, and also
Yeah.
two, by the time you finish, like if you're really heading after a 2K, by the
Mhm.
time you finish your first 500 meters, like the realization dawns on you that you
Yeah.
are in so much trouble. like,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah.
like the 800-meter or 1,000-meter mark, you're just like, I can't stop. I just have to keep going. And like, that's the
Yeah.
argument you have
It's
to have with yourself.
I've made my bed. I've done it. Um,
Oh,
yeah, because you can, especially if you've been doing it a while and you hop on
yeah.
a 2K row and you're going, like you can
Mm,
tell at probably like around the, you know, I say like I could tell like at the 300-meter mark, like if I'm going to be close to or like have a chance at like PR thing, or if it's not going to be
yeah.
there. But I also like around 300-meter marks, I'm like, this is exactly how like I'm gonna
Mm,
feel this bad. I'm gonna feel this bad for this long, and like,
yep.
and you're just like mentally strapping in for like, all right, I got another, 6 minutes
Yep.
of being really, really
So,
uncomfortable.
oh, it's
Oh
so
my gosh.
long.
I remember listening to Chris Spieler tell a story like in a similar thing where like at CrossFit Park City, they had the
Mhm.
workout on the board was like 2,000-meter row, and like that's the workout of the day. And if you're doing that thing properly, you're like, you're getting all your members, sub 9. And
My wife,
what is
ladies and
that?
gentlemen.
Is that to prevent you from sunburning yourself?
Yes.
That,
Yes, she's like, you have a delicate English complexion. So
yeah, I mean, she's not wrong.
she's not wrong.
She's not, no.
You.
Um,
Whew.
but
Yeah, that got hot.
yeah, but he was on like he had a member that had been at his gym for a while. He comes in, sees 2K row, and
Mhm.
he's like, and this he was talking the topic of discussion during this podcast for Spieler was like teaching intensity and like
Mm.
how you can get, and so and getting that concept across to people. And so person walks in, he sees 2K on the road, he goes, man, like, is that it for today? Like, is that all we're doing? That's it. And Chris goes, yeah, man, that's it. Like, you're going to row 2,000 meters. He goes, do you mind if I do some extra stuff like before or after? Like, can we do something else? Like, as in, and
Mhm.
so Chris, like, he goes, hey, man, I love that. I'm more than happy to let you do some extra stuff after. He's like, but here's what you're going to do. He's like, if you want to do some
Yeah.
extra stuff after, he's like, I want you to smash this workout first, like smash this
Yep.
2K, and then I'll
Yep.
let you do whatever you want after. I'll program some stuff for you to do after, like give you
Yeah.
extra stuff to do. He goes, all right, cool. Like, what am I shooting for? And he goes, I want you to try and get sub 7:30, like under 7.5 minutes. And
Yeah.
for like, if anyone's has done a 2K row and you know which time is, you're like, that's fast. If you have
Yeah.
rowed a 2K in that time or faster, you understand exactly the level of discomfort it took to get there. And
Yeah.
so Chris is telling the story, and he was like, to his credit, like worst 2K strategy ever, just like 3, 2, 1, go, starts ripping that thing. Like famous last words. And so he starts, so he,
Yes.
and so when I start blasting, and so he starts going, and
Oh.
he was like, he finished just under like probably like 7:20 something, and like as soon as he finished 2K, like last stroke, like
Yeah.
lets go of the handle and just falls off the rower with his feet still strapped in, like just
Yeah.
falls out drooling the whole thing. And afterwards, like he's like took like a solid 10 minutes to like scrape himself off the floor, and then as he gets up,
Yep.
he's like, all right, I get it. And it's like
Yep.
off he goes. And it's like that, that's can be hard to get across people like, hey, hurt yourself here, like give her something.
Man,
But
I
that's oh,
if you come to me in a class, if I'm coaching a class and you come to me and you're like, 2K, that's it. I'm going to make you my personal pet project for that class. Like, you're my demo. You're going to get
yeah,
all the warm up. Like, and like,
yeah,
not to be, and that's not to be cruel. And like, I would be judicious in how I applied it.
mhm,
But there are some things that have to be experienced. And
100%. Yep.
we can talk um, academically about intensity, but the reality is, unless you, and this is a two-part equation, unless you as the athlete are seeking true intensity, because part B, your coach understands how to coach you there and to bring it
Mhm.
out in you. If you like, if you haven't been shown what that is, there is a huge part of your CrossFit journey that is missing.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't do it with a 20-minute AMRAP.
Nope.
I think it has to be, it's a sub 10-minute effort, you know. um, Chris Hinshaw says you have to pace anything longer than 3 minutes, right? So it almost
Yeah.
has to live in that like
Like
three to
sub
eight minute
six.
window. Yeah,
Yeah.
like or that. Yeah, perfect. Like
Yeah.
something where you are you are fucking redlined and you're trying to hold on to that pace, whatever it is, for dear life. And
Hmm.
like we talk about breakdown positions in the gymnastics course, like imagine going so fast at something that your body is failing you. Like,
Yep.
obviously not letting you get to the point of physical like danger, but
Hmm.
part of the thing that is acknowledged is in intensity is I will see a degradation in movement quality. And I
Yep.
know that and I accept it as a coach
Yep.
because intensity is the thing that we're looking for, right? And
Yeah.
so there's rules in how you apply that, but man, the first time you find that, and you
Yeah.
never forget it ever again.
Nope. Nope. And the thing is, like, it needs to be experienced. I can explain to you
Yes.
what intensity feels like, but you don't know what it's like to go there until you go there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and so like
absolutely.
there's a whole bunch of we could probably do a whole podcast episode on how to teach intensity. Because I
Sure.
have some like tips and tricks, like tricks up my sleeve that me and Colin have used to like get people to go hard. I'm like, hey, we're gonna make you feel something today.
Yeah.
Like whether you want to or not, you're gonna feel something today.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I just as soon as you mentioned the 500-meter row class, my brain just started going and like, here's how I would teach this. And because of
Yep.
course, if the 500-meter row, it's like that's not the only like quote unquote sprint you're going to do on the rower. Like there's primer
Mm-mm.
pieces to
Mm-mm.
get the gears warmed up. Like you got to touch sixth gear before you shift it into sixth gear for you know 2 minutes. So
Dude, we're going to spend several minutes talking about nothing but starting positions and how to start on a rower because you only get one start, and if you fuck it up, you'll lose your PR.
yeah, 100%. And it's the it's like I don't know what else to call it, but like the segmented pull bit where you're like
Yep.
like basically getting the fan
Full
going.
three quarter,
Um,
half quarter,
yeah,
full,
yeah,
as an example. Yeah.
yeah. Um, So yeah, we're talking about that. I'm having them go through that. I'm having them be like,
Mm.
hey, you're gonna like do a 150-meter sprint like as fast as humanly possible, but use that start.
Hmm.
Like try and get your pace per 500 as low as possible, as quick as possible, and you're going through multiple rounds of that. Take a little break.
Yep.
You know, anything else funky, weird, you know,
Dude, we're going to
tricks
talk
up your
about
sleeve that you
stroke
want to.
length, how you shouldn't be going into the catch as far as you can. You know?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
just just how your legs bend. Don't do that. Just
Don't do
like use
that.
your legs. It
don't
takes too much
listen to
time.
don't listen to Kevin right now. You absolutely should bend your legs, but there's a limit.
Yeah, I'm joking. Uh, not being fully serious, but there is a thing to like, hey, if you're fully trying to like make it the prettiest
Hmm.
line of action in and the prettiest line of action out, then you're leaving speed on the table. Um,
Absolutely.
so
Great class.
great. It's painful. Might program that for my members
Well,
now, just to make them feel something.
yeah, dude. Well, hopefully now, uh, everybody at Tilt, I'm sorry. Um, and hopefully now if you've been listening to this, we've provided you some caveats, some good pieces of information to go back and to use for your own knowledge building. Um, Final thoughts, questions, concerns before we kick people loose an hour and 10 minutes later,
After our ramblings and changing topics like 3 times.
right? Yeah.
Started off as what's a great resource for someone looking to like get better at coaching to here's how terrible a 500-meter row is. Oh,
Uh, I
no,
regret nothing.
nothing. No, neither do I. I don't
Sweet.
have anything wild or otherworldly as like a final thought. Just the CrossFit Journal is a
Mm,
phenomenal resource. Whether you're athlete, coach, someone who doesn't even do CrossFit, and you want to learn more about it, CrossFit Journal.
hmm.
Hit
Yep.
it up, journal.crossfit.com, best spot to be,
Yep. Yep.
and then go from there.
Yeah.
Question
Yeah. There's,
everything.
there's a lot. Yeah. Question everything. There's a lot of stuff. And like, question the
Yeah,
journal. Greg would be disappointed if you didn't.
yeah.
Um,
Question us.
so yeah, for sure. I do. For the love of God. Well, I think that's good enough for today. Kev, as always, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join me. And
Oh, thank you for taking time away from your trip to get this done. Give the people what they want. You know,
yeah, man, happy to
go
do
back
it.
to working on your English complexion.
Yeah, or not, man. Like
Maybe
the
one of us can get
interior.
some amount of skin tone.
No, no, I don't. I have pale and lobster. I have two modes. So I'm gonna try to
Yep,
be smart
same.
about this. Yeah. So I mean, like the interior of this umbrella, the metal pole is hot. That's how hot it is over here. So I'm gonna go inside where it's nice and safe. And to everybody, we'll see you next week. Have fun.
Awesome.